Welcome, everyone. Today, very excited to welcome a colleague, a new friend, Kimberly McNary. Am I saying that correctly, Kimberly?
You are McNary,
Okay,
correct.
great. Great. Kimberly is a licensed marriage and family therapist with more than 17 years of experience supporting relationships and personal growth. And she founded, I love this name, the Classy Girl's Guide to Divorce to empower women through divorce and breakup transitions. So, Kimberly and I have so much to talk about and so much in common
Hmm.
and many of the same passions. She also uses evidence based approaches like EFT, emotionally focused therapy, and EMDR, helping clients navigate trauma and relationship challenges. She's in one of my favorite cities, San Diego, California.
It's
So lucky.
the
And
country.
yes, a different kind of beach, but so yes. So we're going to get into your mission, how you work with people, and yeah, all the things. Kimberly, so welcome to Pulling Threads. I can't wait to have this conversation. It's really fun for me to have someone on who does something very similar. And to be honest, my conversations where we can talk about these kind of things together are just, I don't know, really rich. And I have a list of questions for you, but oftentimes they go off on their own. And
Sure.
um, I always look forward to that. So, welcome, welcome. Thank you for being
Thanks,
here.
Leslie. Thank you for having me. It was so fun to find you on LinkedIn and connect this way. And I think we can learn from each other. And I always gather more from being a guest than maybe I would as a host. I appreciate the opportunity to collaborate with you.
Yay. Yes, it's really fun to be a guest. It's really fun to be I've started getting on other people's podcasts recently, and I'm like, oh, this is really fun. I like
Yeah,
it.
you
It's
just
fun.
show up and yeah.
Yeah, it's great. So let's get into your practice first so we can just lay that are a couples therapist and you founded the Classy Girls Guide to Divorce. So tell me first the distinction. Do you have a therapy practice and a coaching practice? How does that work?
In California, it's frowned upon. It's not impossible, but there's a lot of work to have separate to be a coach and a therapist. So I'm
Oh,
a
okay.
therapist. So I
Okay.
identify as a divorce therapist, but my mainstay for the last, I don't know, 16 years has been couples work and specifically betrayal trauma. So
Mm.
as was working with couples, obviously not every couple who's experienced betrayal trauma gets through it. And so I was realizing when we would get to a point when couples just couldn't repair either one or both, the trust couldn't be rebuilt, one or both partners weren't willing to put in the work, they would often get to a divorce place and then I wouldn't see them again. And it bothered me. And I wanted to become more of a holistic couples therapist. So I did some training in discernment therapy, which I know you're familiar with,
Yeah.
therapy to decide should I stay or go.
Yep.
And actually, to be honest, I'm stepping back from couples more now. This is actually my
Okay.
first public announcement of that.
Yeah.
That's been my mainstay, but I really prefer to work with individuals and specifically women in the divorce field. But that's not all of my practice. Obviously, as a therapist, I see a lot of individuals who want to stay in their relationship, but their partner is unwilling to go to therapy or they realize they realize they're part of the pattern. So I help them as well to be able to stay in a relationship, even if it's someone with limitations that loves them dearly, how to be with someone that has them. We all have limitations, but yeah.
Yeah.
So that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation, but really important one because what I have found for whatever reason, ChatGPT has sent me a lot of people who are in a relationship where there is a trauma bond where they want to stay. And we're going to look at this relationship and what's working and what's not. And I'm going to help if you want to stay, I'm going to help you understand what that means and how you can be
Acceptance.
differently setting boundaries. If the other person is willing to do some work, then okay, we can figure it out.
Mhm.
And that's a whole nother area that I think the internet doesn't talk about, right? We have all these people saying, you got to go, walk away.
Right.
There
I sit
is,
in fireside chats, Leslie, personally, and everyone says, man, if that happened to me, I would just leave. And I think to myself, having been doing this work for so long with betrayal trauma, that you don't know. This is
You
someone
don't
you
know.
love and care about. It doesn't work for everyone, but it
Yeah.
can work. But it takes two people,
Yes.
two
People
people.
have to be willing to be doing the work. Yeah. I um, personally have a partner who has gone through a lot, but we have gone through a lot, but every single step of the way, this person is full on in therapy and making change. There's therapy and there's action. And
They're emotionally
he says,
accompanying you.
correct. And he says all the time, I never would have thought that anyone could have gotten me here. So I'm
Wow.
always really careful to tell our story and to tell what we've been through because not everyone could have gotten their partner there. Not everyone could handle it, would be willing to dedicate the time, and not every partner is willing to do the work to stay
Correct.
and keep going. So yeah, that's a whole area of work. What
That's so
pulled
great that
you?
you're growing together, right?
Yeah,
You're growing
yeah,
together.
yeah, yeah. And I'm a therapist. I do the coaching, but I'm also really into what people call woo woo. I believe in astrology and human design, and I love all of that stuff. And when we look at that stuff, we are really aligned.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, we're both willing to do the work. We're both willing to set boundaries. And I think we both would be willing to walk away if the other person wasn't. And that's important,
Mhm. Mhm.
really important. Protecting myself is number one. But I would also do just about anything because of the relationship that we have and how it works. So yeah,
That's so lovely.
totally different, totally different area of expertise, but it does show up because of the work you and I are already doing. It just people find you. And like you said,
I
one
think you
person
set
doesn't want to
yourself
go.
up to
Yeah.
invite somebody into your life who
Yeah.
emotionally aligns. And
Yeah.
and I always say to women who are dating, are they willing to work on it? They may not have those
Yep.
skills now, but are they willing to work with you on it? And I think that's the
Yeah.
important piece.
Absolutely. And I don't think people talk enough about our traumas are often aligned, almost always, right? So if you're trauma aligned, I have my own trauma. He has helped me grow in ways that I couldn't have
Mm,
grown on without being in a relationship. So I've faced some of my stuff because he's put it in front of me. And
right.
I don't see that
Wow.
as
That's
so.
lovely.
What pulled you toward focusing on divorce specifically?
11 years ago, I found myself in getting divorced. Originally, our intention was to separate and work on ourselves and then bring that back to the relationship, but things didn't work out. And so I knew everything that I was feeling. I had no idea how to handle myself, how to
Yeah.
handle this new life, being single after almost 30 years. You, especially after 30 years, you align with somebody, you have, we were very enmeshed. We were very
Yeah.
enmeshed. And that's what I learned to do growing up was enmesh. And so it fit perfectly. And going through the divorce, I didn't know what, of course, I look back with a rear view mirror, and I'm sure you can too, Leslie, is I look back in the rear view mirror and I'm like, I didn't know about CDFAs, Certified Divorce Financial Analyst. I didn't
Right.
know. We went to mediation. I felt that it went well. We both felt it was an unfair deal, which the mediators I know say, then we've done a good job if you both feel it's unfair.
You're like,
I don't know about that, but that's what they
right.
say. And it inspired me to, I'm a writer. So it inspired me to
Sure.
start writing. And then I
Yeah.
thought, I want to be able to create resources for women. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. My writing coach taught me that, which totally
Yep.
shifted my writing. Not going to reinvent the wheel. There's a million books on divorce out there. But going through my own divorce, like you said with your partner, it caused me to do some work that perhaps if I had done that 30 years ago, I don't know how I would have showed up in the marriage. I don't know if we would
Yeah.
have gotten married. I just don't know. I'm super
Good.
glad we did because we have 3 beautiful children and 5 grandchildren, and I have 3 wonderful son-in-laws. So there's and we had a lot of happy times, but my inspiration came from going through my divorce and just there was something inside of me that said, "We can do this not better, but we can do this differently." And I really
Yeah.
wanted to help them because the emotional process was what I was most surprised about
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
What would
Yes,
trigger the
I would
emotions?
say, yeah, the emotional stuff and the surprises that afterward you feel like, "Why didn't anyone prepare me for that?
Yeah.
Why didn't somebody tell me my nervous system was gonna shut down in that meeting and prepare me for that?" Yeah, there's so many things. So, how was it so you were already a couples therapist. This isn't on the list of questions, it's coming to me, and I've thought
That's
about it before.
okay.
How was it being a couples therapist and going through your own divorce?
I had a lot of shame. I remember was teaching couples workshops at the time with another colleague. And the first workshop I did after separating, before we had checked the divorce box, I remember being so nervous to stand up because before I had a platform around I'm married, I've been married a long time, we've been through a
Right.
lot of iterations. And to stand up and say what I'm a divorced marriage and family therapist. So I had a lot of support in being able to stand up and get through the shame and say it. And even though I saw the fear in some of the people as I was speaking in their faces, how is she going to help us if she couldn't make her marriage work? That
Right.
shame stayed with me for quite some time. And I'm super glad that I had a great therapist to help me through some of that. Actually, I can provide a lot of information about what to do, what not to do, how to navigate those moments. But at the time, there was a lot of shame. And also being in a faith based community as well. I was doing these couples workshops at churches. So that was another thing too. But I can't tell you how many people, like pastors, who I didn't know they had been divorced, just came alongside and said, Kimberly, you have a gift, and that gift doesn't go away just because you're divorced. So
Yeah.
use it. You're going to get through this. I kept hearing you're going to be okay. I was like, I don't know. I don't know. But I am. I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're helping people in a way that other people who haven't been through it just can't. So let's talk about
Mhm.
that. It's funny, I have a client in almost in your exact situation.
Mm.
Uh, and there's so much shame and fear in how things are gonna play out. Some of our conversation with him, because I know there's
Mhm.
so much
Yeah.
fear. But I believe you can offer women in a divorce something that a therapist who hasn't gone through a divorce just can't. What might they miss? What might someone who hasn't been through it not understand?
Let me say this first, Leslie. I absolutely believe that clinicians who work with divorce clients but haven't been through divorce they can support. I think it's the nuanced moments that aren't so obvious that happen privately. That first time you check the single box or the
Yeah.
divorced box on an application, they're not so quiet in our nervous system, but the quiet moments at home when you're sorting through a lifetime of memories, when the moments of seeing the person that you once built a life with move on, or just even seeing them in the same space.
Yeah.
And the community that you surround yourself in also has reactions too. And people tend to choose, right? People
Yep.
don't know how to handle being friends with both of you, so they end up choosing, and that's okay. Someone warned me about that. But I think there's those nuanced moments, and I'm probably not naming them all. I know I'm not covering them all. The financial fears, right? Even for someone who has wealth, there's still fear that
Yep.
lives or builds up inside of them because their life is shifting. You're taking one pot and you're splitting it into two. And regardless of where you are in lifestyle, that's the biggest fear I see in women. So I do think that clinicians can work with divorcing clients, but there's that nuance, the experience. Like I'll say something to a client and they'll say, that's it. I couldn't find words for it. That's it.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
I can help them with that. What about in your practice? I'm curious what.
Yeah. All the things that you just named are things that I have not only experienced, but watched people experience.
Mhm.
And one of my goals with people, if I can start working with them early enough, is really the preparation piece.
Mhm.
And in our field, I think as a therapist, so there is a difference between therapy and coaching, but because I
Correct.
was a lawyer and I have a therapist background and I'm doing coaching, my approach is very blended. I think of it almost like a functional medicine doctor. I'm really taking care
Mhm.
of the whole person. The only exceptions of things that can't cross over from the coaching practice into therapy and back and forth, really EMDR, right? Like we
Mm.
can do, but the thing I see and I feel like I help the most with is people come to you, and you may experience this too. When they come to me for coaching, for divorce coaching, they think the most important thing is to figure out usually co-parenting or parenting plans. I don't want to give up 50%. I don't want to
Mm.
away for 50%. How can you help me not make this happen? I don't want them gone 50%. So that's number one. And number two is the money. How
Right.
am I gonna survive? They're panicking for women. Many of the
Mhm.
women aren't working at their full capacity or at all. I was a stay-at-home mom. I had been a stay-at-home mom for 10 years, but I could have very so resentful, but also understanding it was my decision, if that makes sense. But
Mhm.
it doesn't everyone. So I can talk to them about that, but a lot of it is I don't want to give up my house. I don't want to give up my house. I don't know where we're going to live. I don't
Right.
want to downsize. Okay, I understand you don't want to give up your house, but I know how hard that's going to be. I
Mhm.
talk to you about what's realistic after and what life's going to
Yes.
look if you're
Yes.
struggling to keep the house or you lose the house because you can't afford it versus it feels really good to have your own new house that's all
Mhm.
yours that you get to decorate. So a lot of things are, I know your mind is hyper focused on these specific details. I
Yes.
just want you to, once we can get your nervous system calm, I have you take a step back and I want to show you the other side could look like, and it could look really good. And some of these things you think you have to fight for are actually not gonna be that important down the road. So, like, it's a
You
lot of
spoke
that,
to
and that's
something.
blending.
Yes. I can't call myself a coach, but there's coaching involved. There's
There is.
absolutely coaching
There's so
involved.
much crossover, right.
You
The
spoke to
laws
something
of the
really
state.
important though, Leslie, was I think many women, and I'll just generalize here, there's always exceptions, but many women want to keep the house and they think about, okay, I'm going to be getting this money. I can afford it with this. But you think 10 years, and I know you probably help your clients too, 10 years down the road, when let's say spousal support is gone or
Yep.
child support is gone, and you've used that to help your budget, what do you do when the pipes need to be relined? What do you do
Right.
when that, even if it's a brand new home, 10 years down the road, there's going to be some repair work, and positioning yourself for financial stability, I think is,
Yeah.
and many women think about that. I want to keep my kids in the home. There's nothing wrong with that. I get it. You want to
Nothing
keep a
wrong with
stable
it.
environment, but financially, if you're struggling to, and I also stayed home for 20 years. So this is another thing I didn't know about Social Security. It never came up in our
Yeah.
divorce in the legal proceedings. I never considered it. My Social Security is this big because I was home for 20 years. And financially, that's something that I never considered as we were negotiating. So there's all
Right.
these things that a panicked brain may not
Right.
come online,
Yeah.
um, that
Yeah.
we can support and help with. Yeah.
Yes, and so much hope. There's so much hope, but the people get you have a lawyer. A lot of people have it, and that's pretty much what most people walk through the divorce with. If they're lucky, they have a therapist and they have a lawyer who supports them. A lot of people, high conflict divorce. Did you accidentally hire a high conflict attorney who's stoking the fire? So many things to consider before, during, and after
And after.
that that people just don't think about. Like you said, getting back on the dating apps or getting on them for the first time. I had never been on a dating app until the day my divorce papers were signed. My son walked through the door and I was like, okay, maybe I'll open up this app and see what this is, what it's about. And then I was like addicted to it for a little while, but it also made me really sad. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
oh my
I
God.
got
Like,
on and I got overwhelmed by the requests and I was like, and I got off. It was just,
it's me
it
too.
was
I
so
got on and off so many times. But I met my partner now. So we met initially within, I want to say 35, 40 days. We met, but we were texting. He was talking to probably 10 women at that time. That was his life.
casting his net
We text,
wide.
he was definitely casting and he had been for a really long time. But I really enjoyed the back and forth and I was like, this is interesting. Now, I was never a dater before. I was a dater. I wasn't a one night stand person, none of that. So being in an app and having all those people like you, I was overwhelmed. But the first guy that I met before Frank, the very first night, ex-husband signed the divorce papers. Jack walked through the door with them and handed them to me. And I got on
Oh,
Hinge and I met this really great guy who had been divorced, he said, for a year. We won't go into the rest of that story. But he told me he became like an advisor, like a friend. And we did go on 3 dates, but there was no
connection.
mystery. But he said, Leslie, you haven't done this. You've been in this relationship for 20 years. Like, go on 10 dates that do not matter. Doesn't matter who they are, what they are, just go on 10 dates. You need to work out the kinks,
That's
right? And
great
like build some
coaching.
confidence. He continued to coach me. We didn't keep seeing each other, but we became friends. And that was such
That's
great
so
advice.
special.
Oh, those things are the things I tell people. And again, if I hadn't met that guy, Mike, and he hadn't said that, I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't be able to share it with my clients now. And when my boyfriend Frank and I met, we didn't have time. I was in mindfulness-based reduction program through Brown University, which was really intense. And 4 days, 5 days where sometimes you're in silent
Intense.
retreats, very intense, lots of studying. And I had started social work school as I went back during the end of the divorce. So Frank and I couldn't make it work. He was working weekends traveling for ESPN. It wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally signed off. I was like, obviously, this person is dating multiple people. I'm not a priority. I'm only talking to him because I don't know how to talk to more than one person at a time. That feels weird in 1990s dating style or maybe early 2000s.
I was
Because I
having
was like,
babies then, so I'll put myself back in the 80s.
so I said, you know what? It's been really great talking to you, but I think I'm gonna move on. Because in my mind, I can't be talking to more than still funny. So we moved on. We both had a month and a half. I made a list of qualities in someone and put it in my manifestation
Uh-huh.
journal. He did. He even made a slideshow of the person he would want. So we hadn't met in person yet.
Wow.
And in June of 2023, I remembered he was a Cancer. I'm a Pisces. And on the first day of Cancer season, it popped up on my phone, happy Cancer season. And I was like, oh, that guy, Francesco, it's a Cancer. Happy Cancer season. Your birthday must be coming up. Happy birthday. Very clearly signed off on him and said to him, peace out. He was like, hey, to hear from you. I'm actually in town all summer. Do you want to get dinner? And then we did, and we've been together ever since. So that's a story of just don't sign off on people because people get so upset. I met this guy. I thought he was, if in
It's
that
also,
little,
yeah,
we
it's
weren't
also the
ready. If
meaning
you
we
look at
make of,
those 6 weeks that we were not talking, so many things happened in each of our lives that laid the groundwork for us being able to show up for one another. And
Wow.
that's the other thing. I actually just met someone who they met their now spouse a year. When they first met, they were like, your path. Both of them did a lot of work on themselves. And a year later, they met and they had a different lens. And now they're very happily married. So you
Mhm.
never know.
No, but I think the preparation you talked about, Leslie, is the key, is helping our clients prepare for so
Mhm.
many things that they don't even know is ahead of them,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And
Yeah,
I
that's a
always
beautiful
tell them,
story.
thank you. Sorry, I went down my own tangent, but I
Oh,
think,
no, I love hearing about people's experiences. Everybody's different.
yeah, everybody's different. Everybody has a different experience. And I think the most important part of that story that I didn't probably say was all of the work I did on myself. Because I often get clients who are like, can I start dating now in the divorce process? I'm afraid of being lonely. I want
Mhm.
to get out there. And I'm like, I'm never going to tell you not to do something, right? If that's what you need and that's what you want to do, then you do it. Here's what I did. I did an incredible amount of work on myself for the 2 years, 3 years, really, the year before I left, the year I was
Mhm.
process of leaving, and the year I was in the divorce. And in those 3 years, by the time I got to the end of it, I felt confident on the day that the papers were signed that I was ready. I loved myself. I was and I
That's
could say to my
unusual
most people don't
and
really get
inspiring
to do work.
and inspiring.
Yeah, but I think the thing I could say to myself that a lot of people can't is, could I get my heart broken and be okay right now? And I was like, yes, actually, yes, I can get my heart broken. I've got me. And that's where you want your clients to be when they start going out into the dating world because
That's so great.
all
I
kinds.
needed you. I needed you when I was dating because I did it all wrong, all wrong.
What?
I needed someone like you to be able to say, let's continue the work. Let's get you to a place where you're actually choosing someone and inviting them into your life rather than doing it from an emotional, I'm scared to be alone. What's wrong with that's how I came out of my marriage. I felt like I was this big and I picked low hanging fruit
Yeah,
and
and
it,
happens. That's what. And did you choose people who had even more potential to hurt you because of the place
I
you were in?
did. I did. I actually, and I don't use this term loosely. I actually started dating a narcissist. And I was even warned in the beginning from one of his ex girlfriends that he was a narcissist, but I didn't even know what that meant at the time. Honestly, I hadn't had much experience with that. And so I got into a relationship, and without going into a lot of detail, it hurt my kids. It hurt
No.
me. I remember after I got out of it and I was starting to recover that one of my daughters said to me, we met for dinner. I was on my way up to Tahoe and we met for dinner. And she said, Mom, it's so nice to have our mom back.
Oh,
And everyone around me could see it. So I did. I picked from a place of a woundedness
yeah.
and chose
Yeah.
someone, not, it wasn't conscious, and he didn't show up as someone who's going to wound me. And I allowed so much. So I didn't see a therapist for that. I got a dating coach, and she's the
Oh,
one
good.
that changed my life and helped me show up and say, wait a minute, you're not interviewing me. I'm interviewing you. I get to choose as well. But I was
Yes.
coming from are you going to choose me?
Choose me. Yeah.
Am I enough for you? Choose me, right? Choose me. And
Yeah.
that was not healthy. So
Work.
she
But it
changed my
was
life.
what, when I got on the apps, the one thing I realized, because you can go and it's not probably dating coaches were posting it, like how to make your profile. And I was like, okay, these men's profiles are essentially listing what they want, what they're looking for.
Mhm.
And we're being coached as women to put ourselves out there like a product. I'm fit, I'm this, I'm that. So we're trying to attract them and they're shopping for us and saying, and I was like, this is weird. This is so backward. This is so
Oh, even as you describe it, I'm just like, ew. There's just an ew,
yes,
right?
it's so bad. It's so bad. So I remember changing I didn't have a profile up for very long because I think after Frank and I stopped texting, I did go on 6 dates. And then I was like, enough. I want to meet somebody organically. I'm done. Because yeah, I thought, but at first I didn't put my kids on there. And then I was like, I don't want to meet somebody who doesn't want someone with kids. So it was I am this and a mom, proud mom. Because I was like, I don't want to go on a date with somebody and have them say, oh, you have kids. I don't want to date somebody with kids.
Full
Fine that you
disclosure,
don't.
right?
You don't want to date someone with kids, but I have them. They're not going anywhere.
Mm.
So you don't need to necessarily be in their life. Don't care about that, but I've got them. They're not going away.
And that's really important that we think about our children. Not
Yeah.
that we live our life for them. My kids are all
Yes.
adults, but that we think about this is one thing that I had to learn to do is think about every step of the way. How is this going to impact them? And sometimes those impacts are very subtle. And
Yeah.
I have checked in with my kids. I'm doing this Classic Girls Guide to Divorce. And I asked them, I know you don't want to be involved. I'm not going to ask you to be involved, but do you want me to talk about it? Do you want me to share with you? Because we would share like, hey, they're all business women. We would share like, hey, I got this accolade. Hey, I did this. Hey, guess what? I'm going to be on a podcast. And I
Yeah.
wanted to check in to see, was this resurfacing any grief, hurt, whatever they were feeling? And they all
Yeah.
said the same thing. Mom, we're so proud of you. And it's a chapter of our life. One of my daughters said, it feels more like a bruise now than an actual open wound. She said, but I don't want to be in the weeds with it, but I'm here
Yeah.
to cheer you on. We know she looked at my LinkedIn profile recently and said, I know we're kind of going off topic here, but she looked at my
No, this is
LinkedIn. She
great.
left me this message it just touched me. She said, Mom, I looked at your LinkedIn profile the other day and I was reading some of the material that you've been posting. And she said, you know what, Mom, as much as this was a really tough chapter in my life, she said, I would totally hire you if I was in that position.
Love
The
that.
way you've positioned yourself, etc. And I'm like, a breath of relief
Yeah.
because what we hold as mothers while we're going through this, as parents, as co-parents, is so much. So that was
Yes. Yeah.
that was lovely. It just reinforces. I know I feel different, but it's nice to see that
Yeah.
the people around me also feel that difference too. Yeah.
Yes. Do you mind sharing like the age
Mhm.
range of what the girls were when you
Sure.
were going through your divorce?
Our youngest was 18 and our oldest was 23. And
Do,
the youngest had just gone off to college
do you feel
at the
like
time.
people think it's going to be easier for kids when they're older? Because I know for me, there
Yes.
were 2 women in particular who told me, do not wait. They waited until the kids graduated and they said,
Mm,
if you think waiting this out is going to be
mhm.
easier for them, you are wrong. And they can see how unhappy you are. Is this how you want them to think women should live their life? Don't
Mm.
drink the Kool-Aid that the kids are better if you wait. So,
I
can
think a
we
lot
talk
of
about that?
people, we can. That's not my story. We didn't wait. There wasn't a,
On
um,
purpose, right?
yeah, that wasn't our story.
Yeah,
Um, but I do have clients that have come in and said, I'm just going to hold on until then. Just help me hold on until then. And I said, what's magically going to shift for you? Because I think adult children get lost in the mix. I'm not saying that young kids don't too, but adult children do because we relate to them. Oh, you're an adult now. You got the tools to be able to
you
handle, but it's just as devastating, just different.
yep,
And with
it's
the
just
rise of
different.
gray divorce, there's a lot more adult children experiencing this and having to
Yes,
navigate. And then there's the fears. My girls have never said this to me, but I know that I've talked to other women who have said the fear is, am I going to go through this? Is this what going to
right.
happen to me? It's real.
Yeah, it is. And I think that it's a perspective because I'm never judging anyone for their choice. If their choice is to stay and that they think it's best
Mhm.
for family, to do this after the kids go to college, then they know their circumstance. But one thing is that when the kids, when it happens after they leave, now they're an adult. You can't put them in therapy. You're not there with them every day, which they are.
Mhm.
Whereas, no, it's not ideal. I have a few clients who have kids right coming into puberty and they're going through is bad. I have a very good friend who's going through it and they fast tracked and it's still hard, right? You, even if divorce process goes fast, you're still going to go through all the things and so are your kids. So I'm not saying there's ever a good time, right? It's out, but if your children are grieving and hurting and you're there with them, that's going to feel very different than knowing that they're grieving and hurting and they're alone away at school or
That
they
was
have to come
hard.
back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
hard. We had promised our youngest that we would keep the family home. We knew we were going to downsize at some point, but we would
yeah,
keep it through her freshman year. And because we got separated, we had to sell. And that was really devastating. I know. So it's, there's just so much nuance to so many things. And I'm just so glad that you're having, that you have this podcast, that you're broadcasting out, that there's hope and there's help and
yeah.
there's support and you can get through it. I don't care who you are. If you avail yourself to the support, you can get through it and you can be okay. It's going to take a while. I think you talked about fast tracking the legal process, and I think the emotional process can't be fast tracked. I tried
Nope,
that. I tried to fast
nope.
track it. I tried to
Yep.
busy myself and do all sorts of things. And the grief came much later and woof, it hit me like
Yep.
a tsunami.
Oh, cannot bypass the grief. The grief and the grief, it's first of all, it's never linear and it's not, you're not grieving one thing. When a person dies, you grieve that
That's it,
person.
Leslie. You're not grieving one thing. You're grieving death by
No,
a
you're
thousand
grieving your
cuts, right?
house. Yeah, you're grieving the
Mhm.
house, the friends, the family that you lose.
Your
You lose
identity
people you've done it,
as a
your
married woman,
identity, fantasy future that you thought you had, all the things we're looking forward to. Um,
the loss of friendships, friends that you
yep,
once shared, end up
yep,
choosing or just gravitating towards one partner or the other. Yeah.
yep, yeah. And then there is so much shame, unexpected shame as well, that people don't think about. So in my situation, in many situations, my socioeconomic status was going to change dramatically. I remember people saying, you just don't want to leave because you don't want to leave, lose your lifestyle. And that was like a dagger for me, right? As a person, I grew up very with not a lot, right? I didn't grow up with a lot. My parents were divorced when I was 8, and my mother go to work in a factory 12 days a week, 7 days or 7 days a
Wow.
week, 12-hour days. So we grew up learning how to work really hard with very little and watching her struggle. And so to get to leave a financially secure situation was, yeah, was very uncomfortable. It wasn't at the time though, I thought, oh my God, what kind of person am I? They're right. I don't want to lose my lifestyle, but it was more than that. So I was carrying shame through that process of
Mhm.
I don't want to trade in my car, a different car. I want to keep the car. I don't want to be unsure about what kind of home I'm gonna be living in. I don't want
Mhm.
my kids to ever have to struggle, or I don't wanna have to tell them no for things that their friends have,
Oh,
like,
that's so hard, right?
all
That's
those
so hard.
things. And at the time, it felt wrong to feel how I felt about
Mm.
losing all of that. The vacation, we always have
Mhm.
barely take a vacation, but
Mhm.
I knew I was gonna miss out on that. My photography trips, done.
Oh, yeah,
Now
see,
at it
there's a
currently.
side loss, right? A side loss,
Yeah,
something that you loved. It gave you your creative side.
yeah,
Yeah, nurtured that part of
and I
you.
knew, like, I was gonna have to invest it for several years, if not 10 years, in myself and my career to build myself up to the point of being able to do those things again.
Mm.
Now I look at it and I think there was no reason to feel shameful and people shouldn't have said those things. It wasn't just lifestyle. It's not just lifestyle,
Oh,
right?
no,
It's
it's more than
your
that.
life. It's your life. It means something. And
Your life within that lifestyle. Yes.
to
Mhm.
go through, and unfortunately, the people who love and care for us don't always say the right things or understand
Uh-huh.
or even believe. And we do live, you mentioned the word narcissism before. We live
Mhm.
in a world where that term is pretty overused. So is terms. But
Mhm.
I have a belief that when we're really miserable in a relationship, that we do become more narcissistic. So a lot of people show up as narcissists or
Mhm.
narcissists in at the end of a relationship. And the people are like, everyone says their ex is a narcissist, not a narcissist. But in the
I
end
think
of your relationship, they might have become somewhat narcissistic, or your dynamic may have started creating those tendencies that look narcissistic.
Mhm.
So I'm interested in what you think about that because
I'm gonna reframe because I think it's more self-preservation, right? As the
yeah,
relationship is splitting, but it looks like narcissistic qualities.
yes,
And
yes,
I
you
think
said it
it's
better than
Brene
I did, but
Brown.
yeah,
It's not better, it's just different. But I think Brene Brown says that I'm probably gonna botch this quote, but she says that we spend our entire lives trying to stay out of physical and emotional pain. And this is the terminology I use. The adaptations we use to do that are very manipulative, right? They're self-focused. I'm going to get
yes,
my emotional needs met by, like, maybe there's someone who plays the martyr or plays helpless. That's a way of getting your needs met. I was a high performer, so I just performed right through it. I ignored the grief. So I'm sure it did. I have no idea how my ex labels me, but I'm sure it did look very selfish. I had to
yeah,
close myself off and be cold. And it was more self preservation, I think, than anything.
yeah,
So, yeah, I'm very careful with that word. And I think it is overused and thrown around and tossed around. But
yeah,
but what I get from that when I'm seeing clients and they use it is, okay, what is it that hurts you about that? And how can we help you navigate being able to show up and for yourself and in a situation with someone who appears narcissistic? And then there are those. I have clients
yeah,
that narcissistic abuse is a real thing and there is recovery from that is needed. I'm not the
yes,
expert on it.
absolutely,
I have personal experience, but I'm not the expert on it.
yes, yes. And the people who are incredible, and yes, they're definitely. And I think that there is a high rate of emotional abuse. You can call it narcissistic abuse or emotional abuse. We live in a world full of really insecure people, and insecure people keep their partners in place if they have a fragile ego, they keep people by putting them down, by doing
Right.
these manipulative things. It's out of fear. If I
Mhm.
don't knock you, if I don't put you in your place and keep knocking you, or negging is a big word. If I don't do that, you're going to leave me. So, and
Mhm.
then we know what the toll is over years and years of that. One person ends up just diminished and
Mhm.
until one day wake up. And that's when they find us. Typically, I
Yes.
find that a lot of people come to me in a place where I was, like in a fog. I don't even know how I got here or what has happened to me.
How did this
So,
happen and how do I
how
get
did,
through it?
yes. So, on that note, again, this is off script, off the list of questions I gave you, but I'm really curious what your thoughts are on it. I feel like there was a period of time, and this is a personal feel like, and I watched people go through this. I feel like it was necessary for me to see myself as a victim for a window, right? For a
Mhm.
window of time in order to get out of a situation that was no longer serving me and that was causing me to not feel good. I had to see myself that way. And I had to study it and understand what had happened, why it was happening, and even see my ex a little bit as the villain, right? It had to be that way to get me to get the process going,
Mhm.
to move us on. Do you think that is necessary or for some in some situations? Or yeah, I'm just going to leave it there. I'm going to let you take it from there.
Okay.
What your thoughts on that?
So, first of all, it sounds like you were very intentional about that, seeing yourself as a victim. So, I would first say in my case, I have I didn't know this, but I showed up as a victim. I expected my partner, my ex-husband, to show up for me in a particular way. I've sometimes done that in my current marriage, show up in a particular way. But now what's different, I think, is I'm not the victim in any of my stories. I have
Yeah.
choices. And I think that's the
Yeah.
big thing is helping women see that they have choices. As far as I think if you're intentional about that to be able with a goal in mind, that's very nuanced, Leslie. I don't know that everybody can put themselves in a victim situation and be able to see through it like you did. I think we find ourselves because clients come in and they complain. That's the first thing they do. They complain about all the things that their ex-spouse is doing, did do, et cetera, et cetera. When they stay stuck in that story, they stay stuck in their journey of grief.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think EMDR is a great psychotherapy to help people see you have choices now. Not all choices are ideal. Like you said, your lifestyle, your choice to step away from a lifestyle socioeconomically, right? It, or your choice to leave your marriage,
Yeah.
your choice
Yeah.
to, all of those are choices. And rather than blame somebody for those choices, let's build your nervous system up so that you can actually make them. But not all choices are ideal. They're not all
No,
ideal, but that doesn't mean we
no.
don't have them. So I don't know if
Right.
I don't know if I spoke to what you were asking about, but I think that most women come in feeling like a victim. There's very few that I've seen. Usually the ones who don't come in as a victim are the ones who are saying, help me get out of this marriage. I don't know how to say it. I don't know how to do it, but I'm definitely, my heart is already gone. And
Yeah.
those people don't show up as victims.
Yeah.
But I think
Well,
I think it's a common part of the process,
yeah.
but we can't
Yeah,
stay
I think
stuck
so
there.
too.
I know you
We can't
didn't because
stop
here
there.
we are.
No, but it was so I don't want to give myself too much credit. I was told, I had to be told, this is happening to you. Do you know this is happening to you? And then I had to go through the process of seeing how I was participating, what my role in that was. Like it wasn't great, right? I was my first person that I saw, she was a life coach, but she showed up as a therapist and she had a psychology background. When I signed up to work with her, I said, I will not talk about my marriage. I'm not leaving it. It's not an option. I don't want to talk about it. And we did therapy over the phone. And she lives in Orlando, which is a couple hours away. And she's, let's do a 2 hour
Yeah.
session over here. And I was like, I had a list of things to work on. I do. I had bought into the idea at that point that something was wrong with me, something was wrong with me. So I showed up that day and I said, I made us a list. We have 2 hours. We're going to go through some blocks and inner child work and I'm going to be so much better. Um, she was like, first, we're going to talk about your marriage. And I was like, no. So as I described kind of the evolution of things, she was like, have you ever heard of this? Have you ever heard of that? I need you to read this book. And I actually called a friend on the way home and said, do you think this is what's happening? And she
Mm.
was like, yes,
You
yes.
could see
Like,
it while you were in it, right? You can't see it. It's all you know.
and I want to, I want to be careful because I want to say it's very difficult when something is happening, you're on the receiving end of it, but you're also participating in it. And the person isn't malicious, right? This is as a self-preservation, not as a intentionally mean thing. But it's
Mhm.
so I talk a lot to women who are like, my husband is a great guy. Okay. Everybody loves him. Okay. But he does these things and I think they're hurting me. You willing to come in?
Mhm.
Willing to do the work? Now I've begged and begged. He won't do therapy. He won't do work. He
Right.
doesn't see.
First clue. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And we got to talk about boundaries. What if you set these boundaries and maybe they try them? No, it won't work. That was how I call it my victim period, where I had to do the research and say, okay, these things are happening and they're making me unwell. And this,
Oh, I
and I,
see what you mean. I misunderstood that. I thought you were putting yourself in a place of victimhood because that was my story. And you're saying is you had to see yourself as a victim because you really were to certain things. Okay, that makes sense. I was
yeah,
unclear.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because I
without
left my marriage.
I
No,
don't
go
wanna
ahead.
throw him under the bus and say and make it seem as this evil person, because that's not what was happening. But the
Right.
things that were happening were not okay for me and for my system, and they
Yes.
were causing harm, and I had to be willing to see that, and then willing to say, "If we can't change these things, I can't stay here because this is hurting me." And that had to be a window though, and what you said earlier is right. I couldn't stay in that. I could not stay there. And had I stayed there, my after
Sometimes once it
story would
comes
be
to
very
light,
different.
you realize, oh, I don't have the capacity for this anymore. I left
Right. And
my
I think
marriage, Leslie, as it I colluded with the narrative, the unspoken narrative we had that I was the problem, that I had come from a divorced family, that I had a very dysfunctional family of origin. He was in an intact, his parents were still married and a very loving family. I gravitated towards them when I met them because it felt like what normal should be. And I left my marriage feeling, I think, as I said, very small, but I also colluded with the narrative around that. And I
yeah,
operated from that place. And even my therapist, who is a wonderful therapist, my therapist at the time, also was part of that collusion, right? There were labels and things like that. And as I've stepped away and time has gone on, I'm so not that person. I was hurting, and some of my behavior was a symptom. Getting upset, fighting, yelling, the things that I did was a
yeah,
symptom. I was fighting the right thing, but I was fighting in the wrong way.
yes,
And I think now I'm so glad I'll never go back to that was my victim. That I agreed with it. I was a
yeah,
victim, but I knew in my heart that this wasn't true, that some of the
yeah,
things that were happening weren't true about me. But I had grown up in a way, my without going into my whole family of origin, but there was definitely a system that I was in where I was second guessed all the time. What I saw as reality was always questioned. And so I couldn't even I had a one of the guys I dated said, "You have a committee that you go to before you'll make a decision." And I started laughing and then I thought, "Oh,
oh,
yeah. I don't know how to show up for myself. I've got to go check in with this
yeah.
friend and check in with this
Oh
friend.
my gosh.
Nothing's wrong with that. I have
No, I did that too.
wonderful yeah.
I
Is
did it
this
too.
just to get that validation? And the reality is I now make my decisions for myself. I will still call, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this thing," or "I'm thinking about what are your thoughts?" But at the end of the day, I still choose for myself. But I could
Yeah.
not do that 11 years ago. And
Yep.
it hurt me and it hurt the people around me. So I will take responsibility for not knowing what I didn't know, but I can't take responsibility for that, but I will take responsibility for how I showed up in
Yeah.
my first marriage and colluding,
I
right? It's an unseen thing. I
yeah.
colluded with the narrative about me. I was the
Yep.
damaged one. I was the
I was exactly the same. I was the one of the divorce. We actually in our divorce, we had to go to co-parenting classes. It's mandated by Florida, and we did it
mm,
privately, and they make you do the ACEs,
mm,
each of
mm.
and share your
Ooh.
score with each other. I don't know, mine was like a 7 or something because I came from a divorced family, like, all I had family members who were alcoholics, he was like a 0. So we had no aces. And that's what you're saying. It was the same story. Something must be wrong with you because, oh yeah, I bought in too. And that was part of the shrinking of me, was the constant pointing out of the place I came from and the family I came from and all of those things. So yeah,
And
very
I think women
similar.
are generally socialized to be that person. We're socialized. I think it's shifting, which I'm
Yeah.
grateful for. I notice
Yep.
my girls they're much more boundaried than I was at their age. There's a lot of shifts, but I know that a lot of women were socialized to take
Yeah.
that role
Yes.
and be
Yes.
good at it.
And yeah.
For
Yep.
this type A
And
recovering perfectionist.
me too. My Virgo rising just can't help itself but to make me feel perfection sometimes. Yeah, so similar and a different way of saying it, but a very similar and a very, I think, common way this all plays out and why women our age do end up leaving and getting a divorce
Mm.
is a moment. And I can't even tell you how impactful EMDR was for
Oh,
in
life changing.
helping me. Yeah, in helping me to see how I was colluding. I did the exact same thing. I had
Mm.
through a few channels of people who,
Mhm.
in some ways, I've now realized, and I've realized actually since doing some work and starting the podcast, I had people in place to keep me small. And he was one of them.
Ooh.
And close friends who I ran everything through, they were very different than me and very practical people and they saw the world differently and not so much through an emotional lens. And I see things very much through an emotional lens.
Right.
Um, those people, I knew those people were going to say, this is a bad idea, Leslie, or just go be a lawyer again or whatever, right? I knew it when I started the Loom life. It was before I was divorced. And I was like, I just want to create a business sharing what makes me feel good with people. And it was like, what, how much money are you going to, how are you going to make a living at that? What is it going to really do? And you're not going
Mm.
to end up,
And look, here you
right? And
are.
even when I said, I'm going to go on back to social work school, you're not going to make enough money being a social worker to support what are you going to do? And
Mhm.
every decision, but I didn't realize I did that until I was at the end of the divorce and I was thinking about buying a house and doing things. And I was like, I would get my heart set on something, including clinical social work. And these people would be like, no. And I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure. And now I've had 2 years of EMDR and MBSR and IFS, and my saying, yes, we're
Mhm.
100% sure we're going to be a clinical social worker and a
And
therapist
look at what
and do
you've
my,
created, right? Because
yes.
you chose yourself and you paid attention to your gut.
So a lot of the work you and I do with people is teaching them to trust themselves because they are like
Yes.
we were. They
Yes.
were like we were. And they had, when they lose the spouse and spouse's family and maybe some of their own friends in that process, they lose the people they ran it through who would have said, no, don't do that. I had people. So I always say, I love the podcast. I love podcasting. When people say, what's the number one thing you like? I'm like, I love podcasting. I wouldn't be podcasting with any of those people in my life.
Mm.
And so,
People's own
uh,
limitations, their thoughts can hold us
yeah,
back. But that's like you said, and Leslie, that I think that's the biggest key is helping women learn to trust themselves, trust their gut. Maybe not the story their gut's telling them, but trust themselves because we all have it as going through EMDR process. We all have it inside of us. It just
yeah,
gets dimmed or turned off or not paid attention to in our history.
yeah,
And when we start
yeah,
opening it up and paying attention to ourselves, whew,
yeah.
I just feel so different. I'd go through divorce much differently now if I had to.
Oh, yeah, me
I'd show
too.
up for
Me too.
myself a lot differently.
Yes. Yes. And I think, yeah, EMDR is like, it's like someone never filed the files, right? They just threw everything out in the office. And then you start doing EMDR and you're like, oh, I remember that so differently now that I've reprocessed
Uh-huh.
it. I'm gonna put it in the file cabinet. And before you know it, everything is neatly organized in this file cabinet and everything seems so
And
clear. And you're
understandable.
like, right. And all those false beliefs you have about yourself, they're like, that was ridiculous. That was ridiculous.
Right.
And I've said so many times, an 8-year-old gave me so much of my adult belief system that it's ridiculous. No one would put an 8, but
And
she
that's what
ran
we're
the
doing with
show.
EMDR is decoupling the child's view of themselves with the adult view, right? It is, I think EMDR, even more than EFT, and I was mainly trained in EFT and used it for many years. EMDR, watching our clients move from, I just had 2 clients graduate. Both of them are still married. They didn't come in for any divorce work. 2 men who showed up completely differently from each other, but 2 men who graduated and they quit therapy a couple times, right? This isn't working, etc. But they stayed. They came back and they stayed. And to see how they're showing up in their families, their life, their world. I've had clients say, I can't believe I didn't do this work sooner. I can't
Yeah.
believe I didn't know. And here's the great part right now is I don't know if you've seen in the news, but there's so many celebrities talking about their own EMDR work. And I'm
Yes.
like,
It's
yes,
wonderful. It's
it works.
wonderful.
It
Yep.
works. It
Yeah,
works.
it does. I just finished my level 1 IFS training and
Congratulations.
thank you. It's a beast.
I've
But
heard.
yeah, it's 90 hours and it's intense. But now that I can do those 2 together, like I can't wait. I can't wait. I'm starting to learn and I just signed up for a course to like really help understand meshing them. But they're both so powerful and they've both had such a
They
huge
are.
impact in my, yeah.
I have
Well, I want
colleagues that are trained in IFS and EMDR, and yeah, yeah,
it's good stuff. And I'm starting to do intensives with people. And I did one 2 weeks ago.
that's
Just
great.
just a 90-minute I call a 90-minute intensive, minutes or 3 hours. And to just see the transformation with that little extra time it's really, really. But I want to get back to the Classy Girl's Guide to Divorce.
Okay.
Because I want to talk about, we've talked a lot about all the things that show up during and after. And I read The Good Divorce, but I want to say that I had to do it. Have you heard of that book, The Good Divorce?
I have heard of it. I have not read it, but I have heard of it. Yes.
I read it, a friend recommended it and said she wished she had read it during her divorce. So I did try. And what I did is I would read it in pieces.
Mhm.
There were times when I could handle it. And there were times when I was like, I can't. And my hope really was that when it was all said and done, we would still be something, right? We would still be a unit that could feel safe for my kids. That's what I'd want it to be, like we can't both show up to graduation or their game or something like that. I wanted that.
Right.
And that it did help me tremendously with that. So when I read your Classy Girl, that was the first thing that came to my mind was like, how do you be classy? And I had the fantasy during the divorce that it could be peaceful. And,
Right. Mhm.
but the process wasn't peaceful. It couldn't be. But I think because of all the work I did during the divorce, I had my peace and my nervous system and my health intact on the other side. So that's another thing that I tell my clients or people who are coming to me and saying, do I want to work with you? I want to get you to the other side
Mhm.
not sick, right? I want to get you there healthy, regulated, and I want you to remember the decisions that you made because your nervous system was intact enough that you were
Mhm.
and ready to launch, ready to go on. What does being a classy girl actually mean in the middle of a divorce?
So I'm really glad that you asked this because I think I think when we think about the word classy, the connotation is put together, well dressed, refined,
Yes.
um, all those things, right?
All
High
those things. Yes.
society. What I mean by classy is a little more sassy. So a classy lady it's a way of carrying yourself. And carrying yourself through a divorce does not mean that you're polite, that you take the high road at all costs. Classy ladies, girls feel their emotions. They allow themselves to feel them. Because as you know, the arc of emotions, if we get stuck up here at the most distressing point, and if we don't allow them to come down, we can't make good decisions with clarity. So I don't know how I came up with this. It just came to me and I played around with it for a little while. And it lines up with who I am. I'm a classy lady. It doesn't mean I'm all put together all the time. My friends know that. And I talk about, I can be crass and I'm super sassy in my personal life, but becoming who I want to be, staying classy to me is again, a way of carrying yourself. It's not letting the emotions override who you are and make the decisions for you. A classy lady is one who slows down, pays attention to what's happening with her, tries to understand it, and supports herself through the whole emotional experience. And decisions can be made on the other side of that emotional experience. So that's when I'm networking with attorneys, family law attorneys, I'll say,
Yeah.
I'm Kimberly McNary, the Classy Girl's Guide to Divorce. I help women navigate the divorce and beyond because orange jumpsuits and rage texts are never part of a long-term plan. And it's a cute way of getting their attention because they see a
Yeah.
lot of, not just women, men too, but a lot of people going through a divorce. They get really activated, self-preserving, feel threatened
Yep.
financially, emotionally, etc. And then they show up in the most messy ways that don't really get the results that they want.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And boy,
Right.
did I lean
It's not,
into this during the process.
you did.
I
Into the
did.
messy or into the classy?
Well, into the messy so I could show up as regulated as I could be. I remember
Yeah.
going back to mediation, Leslie, and I was challenging something after the divorce was over. And I was scared. I knew that my ex-husband would feel threatened by me challenging what I was challenging. And I went into it. And what I did is I created a metaphorical army for myself to take in there with me. I had my therapist picture, I had my best friend's picture, I had a picture of Jesus, and I carried it in with me. And it allowed me to get through the absolute melee that was happening over here. The
Yep.
mediators looking at us, and I just was able to stay steady and strong. When I got out of there, I fell apart because I had to
Right.
hold it together. But I fell apart in a way. It didn't have to be private. I had a
Yeah.
backup plan afterwards. I had a friend to call when I was done. I set myself up for success. It really was a way of carrying myself. And I live into that now. When I'm at joint events, I show up, I'm friendly, I'm inquisitive, I treat it as if he's a friend.
Yeah.
I don't he doesn't always show up that way. It's harder for him. And I'm actually learning. One of my safety seeking behaviors was trying to be friends with him. Not
Mm.
like buddy buddies calling each other on the side, but
Yeah.
just while we were there in front of our children and our grandchildren is just showing up and being my lovely self. Because I'm lovely. I can connect with people. It's not fake. It's genuine. I genuinely care about people. I could be with his partners, how are you? How are your kids doing? And just show up. That is taking the high road, but showing up.
Yeah.
I don't think I could have done that without the work and this format, this framework of how I carry myself is going to inform so much.
Yep.
And last year, I remember one of my daughters said to me, she pulled me aside and just said, "Thank you, Mom, for the way you're handling all of this. I really appreciate it." And my single goal, besides working, besides taking care of myself, is to make sure that my girls don't have to experience even more pain and hurt
Yeah.
because their two parents who did once love each other in a way that brought them into this world can't do that now. So I just keep showing up. And
I love
that's what
that.
classy girl means to me. How
I
did you
love that.
take it when you read it? What was your first like connotation or
Hmm.
thought? Because I'm curious about how the
What do
world
I think
receives
about
it.
classy?
Mm-hmm.
I liked it. I think I thought about it as showing up i- as the therapist, I would say regulated, but as a person, non-therapist, I would say showing up as yourself,
Mm-hmm.
not bickering, not being the person who goes around bashing them to everyone, and
Mm-hmm.
just being. So I have a lot of clients who are in high conflict situations.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think about the way that I coach them, I am coaching them to be classy despite how they're being treated. So a lot of them are being told you're gonna do this. So we have to meet at the police station. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm not a threat. What are you talking about? But narratives are being laid out for various
Mm-hmm.
reasons because of the high
Mm-hmm.
conflict nature of the divorce. And so I'm going to use it in terms of way I teach them to show up that I consider classy despite what's coming at them, right?
That's
So
right.
I think that's it. Okay, I want you to show up, do not argue about the police station. Say, okay, I think that's a great idea. That's a great
Mm-hmm.
idea. Now, internally, and when you
It can
talk
be
to me,
disarming. Yes.
you can
Uh-huh.
be like, what the hell? And talk about how we know who you are. You know that you're not, you don't need to go to the police station. We can
Mm-hmm.
talk about that. But with that person, that's a great idea. I love that idea. And when you show up with a smile on your face, loving your children, you don't need to make eye contact if that's harmful, whatever.
Uncomfortable. Mm-hmm.
But like if you can, great.
Mm-hmm.
Like um my mother always used to say this thing, and it has pros and cons. And been EMDR'd on this because it also has backfired. She would say, treat evil with kindness. There are certain situations
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
divorce where you have to just be nice, even when you have to be the
You
bigger
have
person.
to take the high road.
You have to take that road. So
And
that's what I think about when I
yeah.
read your thing. When I read Classy, I thought it's taking the high road
Mm-hmm.
despite what's being done to you, despite what you think is being
That's
done to
right.
you, despite what's
Mm-hmm.
happening. And you
Despite
can,
what your ex chooses, how they choose to show up is
it
showing
doesn't
up
matter how they
authentically
show.
as yourself. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I've been
Yeah.
criticized for it post divorce. I've been criticized for showing up and being hospitable. That's, I just chuckle. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
who I am.
This is who
And
I am. This
it's
is who I
not from
am.
a scared place. It's not from a, I need to be the person that I was in the marriage. It's just who I am authentically, and helping women get to that place. Leslie, I mean, you and I both know this, and it's what, if we could impart it in one session, we'd be gazillionaires, right? To a woman, but we know it takes time to do this. This has been an 11-year process for me
Yeah.
to get where I am today, to sit in front of you and to be able to say, I'm comfortable with who I am. I do not lead my life based on what others think I should do anymore. Although I do take feedback. That's important to me. Like I have blind
Yeah.
spots, but to get there, boy, and you know this, anyone has having outside of divorce for a while, it's a journey. And
Yes.
I'm just going to be my classy, sassy, badassy self wherever I go. And if you don't like me,
That's
this
okay.
I'm going to say this in public here on your podcast. I've always said, if you don't like me, it's got to be something about you, because genuinely, I'm a nice person. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. And I
Yeah.
understand that.
Yep.
Now, on this side of things, with the work I've done, having gone through the divorce, being the age that I am, I'm okay with who I am.
Yeah.
In
If
EMDR,
you
we
love,
say, I'm fine as I am.
I'm fine as I am, and I love
Yeah.
myself as I am. I
I'm
love
not going to
myself as I
chase
am.
after being liked by anyone for that
No.
matter, especially because when you divorce, I have a whole chapter in my guide that I'm finishing around safety seeking behaviors, safety seeking
Yeah.
that don't actually provide safety. And one of
Yeah.
mine was to 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 be friends with my ex. I thought if we could be friends, but what I realized it felt safe to me. It made my nervous system calm down, but it didn't for him. And I respect that.
Yeah.
He's got his own hurt. He's got his own process. He doesn't want to be. So
Yeah.
I
It's
had
okay.
to stop trying to force that, right?
Yep.
And then getting disappointed when he was cold or he was guarded or whatever
Right.
whatever
That's
it
all.
was.
That's something inside of him. It has nothing to do with you.
Right.
It
And I
doesn't feel safe
respect
for
that
him.
he has his own process. And if being
Yeah.
around me is difficult for him, I have to respect that now. I'm still going to show up as me. I'm still going to show up, in public with my children. And I'm not faking it either. That's the beautiful thing is I'm not faking anything. I
Faking
just show
doesn't
up and that's who
work.
I am.
It doesn't. Yeah.
No, I
Faking
mean, I
doesn't work.
tried.
There are.
I tried for a long time. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
inauthentic.
That's the key. Being authentic. Keep showing up. There are times when you have to show up a certain way during the process. And I would say
Mm-hmm.
even during co-parenting, if you have kids, if you have younger children, that you're
Mm-hmm.
going to have to show up in a way that just keeps the peace.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like the more you do that, the more you are the bigger person and you show up. In most cases, not all. In most
Right.
cases, they start rising up too. And they're like, oh, okay. It's not always true.
There's
And
exceptions to everything. Right.
also, if there is ill will or poor intent on their part, let's go back to the police station example. If
Mm,
their motive of meeting at the police station is to make you feel like they're trying to make you look bad or manipulate you,
mhm.
and you say that's a great idea and you don't get upset because it's meant to upset you and you don't get
Right.
upset, then you diffuse if this person is, let's say they are on the narcissism spectrum and they're high,
Mhm.
you're not giving them the energy that they were seeking out.
Uh-huh.
So there are times when, hell yes, it's upsetting that you're making me meet you at the police station. Like,
Mhm.
this is
Mhm.
ridiculous. But if I can push through and say, sure, it's a great idea. I'll see you there. We'll be there. I'll be there at 5.
Right. That's a way of
Then,
carrying yourself, right? You're carrying yourself. Inside, you might be trembling or angry or incredibly hurt. Maybe there is a little bit of shame left, but you're not showing it. And that can be very disarming. It's also empowering
it's
to the woman
empowering.
who's doing
It,
that, who's showing up and
it
like,
really
hey, no
is.
big deal. All right.
Yeah.
That sounds great. It's so
Yeah.
empowering. And you
It's
can't
so empowering.
bottle that and give it to someone. It's work. And that's what I would
Yep.
say to the ladies out there. This is work. And I know it's hard work, but it's work you can do. And it's so rewarding. And you can get to the other side, whatever that other side is for you, and live a life of full expression. Even if your financial situation changes. I live in California. It's very expensive here. Therapists don't make a ton of money. But
Right.
but what happened was it motivated me. Here things like this motivate me. It motivated
Yeah.
me to build a practice I'm really proud of.
Yeah.
And I eventually was self-sufficient on my own
Yeah.
financially. And that felt good. That felt good.
Yes. And people, that's so important to point out that you may not know what you're going to do. If you don't have a career right now that can support yourself and you're scared of the money
Mhm.
or you're not working at all and you're going to have to restart, you can do that. You can do that. I went back to school. I
Right.
thought, oh my God, 2 years in clinical social work school, another master's, another one. This is now I've got 3 masters and a JD
Look at you,
and
girl.
all these things.
You go, girl.
But that 2
Mhm.
years flew by. It wasn't as hard as I thought it was gonna be. It was very
Mhm.
manageable. I loved being in school. I loved the science. I was like,
Me
"Oh, it's
too.
neuroscience
I
again."
wish I could just
I
I'm a perpetual student. I wish I had
Me
time
too.
to
Me
audit
too.
classes and
And
I
so we
love
can
it.
do anything, and there's so much potential, and there really is the potential to glow up, to completely relaunch yourself and do whatever you want one thing, I'm backtracking a little bit here because I don't want to end this session without asking you this, because it was one of the main things I really wanted to ask.
Mm.
We were talking about all these emotional decisions and just how raw this period is.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody could be listening and they are beside themselves and they can't calm their nervous system and they're frantic, panicking on a daily basis. Maybe because they're being baited, maybe because they're terrified of what's to come. And they're listening and thinking, there's no way that I can do this. So I tell people when I meet them, when they're coming to me for therapy, we can do EMDR is going to help. And
Mm-hmm.
so many times I was told that you can't do EMDR during divorce because you're in the thick of it. So I want to dispel this
Mm.
myth. I see it online. I'm in a lot of groups of
Uh-huh.
women going through divorce and I see it come up occasionally. EMDR helped me in the past, but I can't do it right now because I'm in the trauma.
Mm.
And I'm like, no. So
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about it. I want to hear your perspective on it and how you use EMDR while people are in the process and just talk about how transformative it can be. I feel like it changed the whole trajectory of my entire future by doing it while I was in the process.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good question. And I think traditionally EMDR is seen as, looking at the past and how that shows up in the present. But oftentimes we are caught in a traumatic, and traumatic is how the body stores it. In the moment of I'm panicking. Well, part of EMDR is we can take away the R, the reprocessing, and just do EMD, which is eye movement desensitization, right? We can do that just to calm the nervous system. And once the nervous system feels calm and they feel competent, we can also there's multiple ways, multiple entry points with EMDR. It's not just about reprocessing the past. That's
Yeah.
necessary to bring the full human adult into play. But you and I can meet them where they're at in the panic and help them. There's resource development installation, which is a big fancy name for let's help resource. I use the 5 senses. So I'll take clients out into the atrium outside of my office. What do you see? What do you hear? I don't think I've had one client tell me that she was too embarrassed to do it in public with me, so she couldn't relax. But every time I've taken a client out there, they've been able to relax. And once you realize there are things that I can do in 30 seconds to bring it down, maybe a notch, it's more empowering. Like, oh, it doesn't have control over me. I have control over it. So EMDR, there's multiple entry points. We look at EMDR is used for significant, like the Harvest Festival in Vegas with the shootings. I worked with the FBI during that time and had 2 clients that I worked with and I only had 4 sessions with them. And in those sessions, all we were focused on was clearing the trauma of the event. They were a married couple. One was able to clear it 2 sessions. The other one needed some ongoing work. So how you show up, right? I can't say it's a 2-session wonder, but
Yeah.
we can meet them in that panic and help them with the panic. And then if they need to, we can go back and reprocess. But that's a lot of the work in divorce is I'm working with women who are, he just said that he lost his job. And so now he can't pay child support. Okay. What are you noticing? What are you feeling?
Right.
Where's the panic in your body? Let's do this. And it
Yep.
works. So I can't explain it all, but
No, but and I feel
the
like
modality,
I
the
feel like I need back
psychotherapy
to
model.
yes.
Yeah.
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 It's
There's a
tremendous.
lot of
Like
misconceptions about
there
EMDR.
are a lot of misconceptions and I think it's when I see people say that I want to scream, I want to jump through the computer and be like, "Oh my God, no, no." Because sometimes their therapist is telling them that. And I'm like, when you don't want to go against what a
I
therapist
mean, we want to
recommended?
make sure our clients are resourced enough, right, to
Yeah.
be able to
Yeah.
do even the desensitization. And it is very different too. I have to explain to a lot of clients about how it's different from talk therapy because we're traditionally we're used to coming in and downloading and verbally vomiting everything. At some point, that's not going to bring you relief. It can
No.
be
And
helpful.
yes, there are
Mhm,
moments. So if I'm seeing someone and they're in my coaching business and they're not
mhm,
in Florida, so I couldn't possibly sign them up for right now for the therapy practice. Therefore, I'm not going to be able to do EMDR with them. The first thing I am
mhm,
telling them is, let me help you find a therapist. Maybe they
mhm,
take their insurance in their state, whatever, and let's try to find someone who does EMDR. Um,
mhm,
Even if they're just thinking about the divorce, they're not even in it yet, because there could be moments where there's panic and your nervous system shuts down in a way that this is going to be the most efficient way to get you back online. And
mhm,
I had that experience where I walked into a collaborative divorce meeting and I was sat in a
mm.
room apart from apart from the team, and the financial neutral came in and sat down and said, "We've been working on the numbers of what we're going to impute onto you for your income."
Uh-huh.
And I don't remember why my lawyer wasn't there with me, but she was never not there with me again after this. And he said, "Since you have had your law degree since this date, so you've had it for 12 years or whatever it was, um, we have decided come up with a number of $250,000 of income." I had been a stay-at-home mom for over 10 years. I was only a
Whoa.
lawyer for a year. I was unhireable, but I knew that number would erase any possibility of any additional support on top of child support. And I remember feeling from head to toe just complete numb, like a numb
Mm,
wave, rapid heart rate. My mind went blank. Like
mhm.
my frontal lobe shut down instantly because, as I said before, I did come from a family with very little means after my parents were divorced. My dad just left. And
Mhm.
so it wasn't just the trauma of him saying that and the shock of, but it was also past. So all of it came in. And I didn't have
Mhm.
therapy scheduled for a week, but I was so offline,
Oh,
I didn't know to schedule.
right.
My lawyer ended up, I went into a manic thing I've never experienced. And
Mm,
she emailed me like 6 days later because I'd been sending her frantic emails, and "You're not okay. You're not okay."
mhm,
And I was like, "I know. I don't know what's wrong with, but I'm not okay."
mhm.
We went in, we did an EMDR, calmed everything down, and then I could
Yeah,
trace back to that moment, but I didn't even know what had happened. I was so
right.
off, I didn't
Sometime
even know what
mhm,
happened. And
mhm.
so I
It's an
encourage
out of
my
body experience sometimes when our nervous system takes over and
Yep,
disconnects from the frontal lobe.
yes.
Absolutely.
And the most significant piece of that story, one of them, is that I walked from that was before our collaborative meeting where we were gonna be making decisions and I was gonna be agreeing to things. So I walked
Ooh.
from that room into the next room completely unregulated, didn't remember
Mm,
anything about the meeting, didn't know what I agreed to. So
mm,
with my clients, like, one of the things that I do, and I'm sure you do it too, is a lot of my work at the very beginning is teaching them ways to get back online if they feel themselves go off,
yes.
and teaching
Yes.
them to immediately, when they hire their attorney, if they've already hired them or if they're in the process, they're gonna guide them on choosing one, or I'm gonna tell them, like, "We need to educate your attorney on some kind of signaling between the 2 of you, but if you're
Oh,
in
that's good.
mediation," right? It's a first meeting with
Thank you,
me
Leslie. That's
thing.
something I'm gonna borrow. Thank you.
Yeah. I say, because that's what I ended up doing. I ended up coming up with a signal I knew
Mhm.
that there was potential in every single meeting for me to be taken out, right? I knew my
Yeah.
nervous system could be taken offline just by being in the room. So
Mhm.
we made a system after that day where if I gave her a certain signal, she had my permission to make decisions on my behalf or say that I couldn't
Mhm.
decision because I was essentially telling her, I don't want to talk. I can't talk. I don't want to make decisions. I'm not okay. So I teach
That
people to
is
do that with.
really that's new to me, and I really like that, Leslie. I'm actually doing a collaborative training. I'm taking a collaborative training in 2 weeks,
Yeah,
and may I share that with some I'll probably be
absolutely.
one of the I think there's 2 therapists that are gonna be in the group,
Yeah,
and the rest are attorneys. That is so key, and share it
yeah,
with the family law attorneys that I work with and mediators. That's
yes. And when
that is
I
really
meet with
key.
family law attorneys, it's one of the things I teach them that they are always like, I didn't think about it that way. And I'm like, you
Right?
have to see when someone, it almost looks like they space out. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. From that moment on, they're no longer able to participate. It would
Mhm.
be as if they can't consent because they are no
Mhm.
longer there with you. They are shut down. I love
My
explaining
shutdown looks like activation.
it
It's the
does.
opposite. Oh, I get
Okay.
activated. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
everybody knows in
So
the
you're a
room,
fight, right?
I'm a
You're probably a
fight.
fight
Yeah.
or a flight. I'm a freeze
Uh-huh.
almost
Well,
every
no,
time.
well, there I have all of them. I
I have all of them
freeze
too,
in
but
some
mostly I freeze.
situations. Yeah, I think the freeze comes first and then I fight, but there I'll see red. And that's where I'm offline and I can't make
Yeah.
good decisions and I can't.
Yeah.
So it looks different, but that's great. Training attorneys,
Yeah.
teaching attorneys how to and teaching your clients. Oh, it's
Teaching
so
your client.
valuable.
Yeah. So
That's my
I have a
takeaway. I love
program.
that.
Yeah. I have a program called Through. It's getting
Uh-huh.
through.
I've seen that.
Um,
Mhm.
and it's one of the first things that we go through is what does your body like teaching them what fight, flight, freeze, or fawn is,
Mhm.
what it does to us, and teaching them is their go-to. We talk
Mhm.
about what are you most likely to do in past situations when you've shut down. I literally still to this day, if something shuts me down, I go sit in my bed. I let myself sit there and freeze for a little while until I want to come out, and then I'm like, "Okay, now I know what to do. I need to go move. I need to
Uh-huh.
do this 5 senses." Sometimes I just like to sit there and just gonna
Let
sit.
it pass through you.
Yeah, but teaching my clients to recognize how their nervous system is gonna show up in these moments and preparing them that this might happen. I have a terrible story of a person who came to me way after the fact, and she got to the courthouse thinking that they were having their first trial session. She was put into a room with her lawyer and given a settlement agreement.
Mm.
And her lawyer said, Just sign it." And she was so taken offline
Wow.
because what she envisioned happening wasn't what happened. And she said, I don't remember anything. I don't, because I'm like,
Mhm.
did you get 50-50? What did you agree to? I don't know. Okay. Do you
She
have a copy of the
dissociated.
paper?
Mhm.
She completely
Mhm.
dissociated, completely shut down, and stayed shut down for about 7 days. Well, you have a certain window of time to go back and say, "I've changed my mind," and that time was almost past by the
Mhm.
time back on. So that's why in Through, I'm like, "I know you don't understand this right now, but the number one thing for
Mhm.
us to do is for you to understand your own nervous system and for us to figure out how to get you back online and put these safeguards in place. We need boundaries. We
Mm.
need safeguards for you."
It's
But that all
empowering.
came from my experience, not from my schooling, not from anything anybody else told me, but from my experience because I lived that. And
Mhm.
I was like, what happened to me? What the hell has happened?
Mhm.
Uh, yeah. And
Again, it
I
goes
needed
back
that
to knowing yourself, learning to know yourself. This is
learning
how
to know and trust.
this is what my nervous system needs. Somebody else may
Yep.
not need it, but I do. Mhm.
Yep. Trusting yourself, trusting. your attorney.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a lot of clients too, and you probably do as well, who do not like or trust their lawyers. And I'm like, okay, this
Uh-huh.
is a big problem. And I know that you can't
Mm-hmm.
always leave them, but this is a really
Mm-hmm.
big problem. So I like it when I get clients before they've chosen. So we can talk about what questions to
Yeah.
ask and how to
I
find the one that's a good fit for
Mhm.
them. Yeah.
I love getting a client from the very beginning.
Yep.
It's I'd say about 50-50 in my practice. Sometimes they come after the process when, right, nobody talks about, okay, everything's signed. What do I do now?
Right. Right.
Right?
Yeah. So I feel like there are probably so many more things that because I was really hoping to talk a little bit about the discernment that you did,
Mm.
and you shared you're not doing as much of that, but we may have to have a second episode
I'm
just to
I'm
check in
great
and
with that,
figure out the
Leslie.
rest.
I just love who you are and what you represent and what you're sharing with the world, and it's making a difference, and I feel very blessed to be a part of it. So absolutely, we can have as many conversations as we need to help.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yay. I feel the same. And I think, yeah, we're on the same page and we're all doing this work to support people through this process. It is not easy,
Mhm.
but it really doesn't have to be as bad.
Mhm.
It doesn't. I had a client last week who texted me after she left the courthouse and she goes, "Oh my God, everything went so much better
Oh.
than I thought."
Mhm.
And she was, "Thank you so much." She did the 5 sentences because I give them tools
Right.
like, okay,
We
when
fill
you're
their
in,
tool
do
belt.
the
Mhm.
yeah, tapping, we're doing
Uh-huh.
all the things. And she was like, it was it wouldn't have gone this way if I didn't have my
Mhm.
toolbox ready. And I was like, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
I have a client
Uh,
that I worked with that is just so full of hurt that vengeance has been her it's been the only way that she's
mm,
been able to navigate, and she can see it, but she can't help herself. It's like, I wanna make him hurt,
yeah,
so she's tried to
yeah,
enroll her kid. There's been a bunch of things. And so, most I don't get a lot of those clients, but she really needed her own nervous system to be able to switch and turn around, like, what do I need? And she was, she was
yeah,
harming the kids by talking to them about it. And that vengeance piece is very real. I know personally people that have, their spouse had an affair and they blasted all over social media. I'm thinking, oh, your kids are going to see that one day. Or how does this
right,
make you look? Right. It's not about how we look,
right.
but
Not classy.
not classy, right? Not classy. Like, I get the drive to do that. I get why it happens and where it comes from.
Oh, yeah.
But there are so many other
Yep.
options to offload. The biggest retaliation you can do is take care of yourself and move forward
Yep.
and build a life that you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the
Yes.
biggest revenge.
Show up authentically, and your spouse will someday do a second look and be like, "What? Who is that?"
Maybe or maybe not. Either way, this life is for
Doesn't
you. That's
matter.
right. That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, I love
So
that.
you're
I
doing
love
beautiful
that.
work, Leslie.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for
Oh,
including
so are
me.
you.
Thank you.
I love it. I love it. Tell everyone how they can find you, how they can work with you, and you did throw in a quick mention that you have a workbook or a guide coming out
Coming
soon.
out.
Like, tell
Yeah.
me about
I'll be
that.
self-publishing. It's not finished yet. I'm still writing, and then I need to have somebody proofread it, but I'll be self-publishing.
Yeah.
Of course, I'll blast that all over social media. You can find me. I work with clients in California. If you live in California, I'm licensed. That's where I'm licensed. Portability has not happened in all states yet. I'm hoping for that. You can find me my website,
Excellent.
KimberlyMcNary.com. I'm also on social media, The Classic Girl's Guide to Divorce, as well as McNary Therapy. And clients I typically don't connect with on LinkedIn, but you can find me there as well. Yeah,
Wonderful. Wonderful. Yay. Yeah, we'll definitely have to have another conversation.
absolutely.
I'm working on my book too, so maybe we could do a little collaborative, some little calls to support one another in that way. That would be
That
really fun.
sounds lovely. We need all the support we can get to hold space for the people we're
Yes,
supporting. Absolutely.
absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, all of Kimberly's contact information will be in the show notes. So you can find it there on Apple Spotify, YouTube, all the places. So thank you so much. I loved this conversation.
Thank you,
It
Leslie.
was wonderful. Thank you so much. And for everyone listening, thank you for being here. Follow, subscribe, do all the things, and see you next.
That's right. Great content. Thanks, Leslie.
Thank you.